Well, the Bearcats once again enjoy success on the road, beating the Rockets in Toledo, winning their second straight game, and having taken 3 of their last 4.
Inside UC Football, an in-depth look at the University of Cincinnati football program, featuring head coach Tim Murphy, presented by your friends at Kroger, and brought to you in part by the Cincinnati Gas and Electric Company and by Miller Lite.
(31-24) the final. Cincinnati beating Toledo in the Glass Bowl as the Bearcats once again are able to manufacture some success on the road. And Tim, going up and playing this team in Northern Ohio, just like playing anybody in their own stadium, was one of concern for you.
Well, we're always concerned, Paul, to play anybody, let's face it. But when you're playing at someone's homecoming on the road against a pretty good football team, we have to prepare very well. I think we took a blowout and turned it into an interesting game for the fans. However, it doesn't matter how you win as long as you win, and we do what it takes, and that's all we're concerned about.
When you talk of winning 3 out of 4, and the role even extends beyond that, this is obviously a very confident football team.
Well, we're a confident football team now, Paul, and that really helps. We won 2 out of our last 3 on the road. I guess we've won 5 out of our last 6 at home, and we're a good football team. I will categorically say that we're a good football team. We do a good job on special teams. We do a good job offensively. And we do an outstanding job defensively. And anytime you have that combination, you have a chance to win. We have room for improvement in all those areas, but we're also very confident in all those areas.
When you look at the start of this football game, what were some of the concerns that you had about Toledo going in?
Well, number one, we had to shut down their running game because they'd run the ball very effectively. And number two, we had to establish the run ourselves because they've been very, very difficult to run the ball against. And with that scheme that they have, it takes some getting used to.
You were able to get your first score by throwing to fullback Paul Blackwood.
Well, we've managed to throw to our fullbacks a good deal this year, and Paul Blackwood probably has the best hands and has the most speed, and he just did a good job turning in a flat pass that was going to go up the sideline, catching it and running by the defender.
And some of that set up by your ability of your quarterback to run the football.
Well, no question about it, Paul. I mean, Lance basically stepped up in the pocket and found the guy he had to find.
And now, again, you've talked about your special teams and the way they've played, and a big play right here.
That was a big play by Mark Stevens. We had a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes in the kicking game this week against Toledo, but all in all, we did enough to get it done.
When we look at the progression your team has made over the last few seasons and in this season, you have to look at the way your defense has played.
Well, no question about our defense has evolved as a whole team has evolved. We were the worst defense in the nation 4 years ago. For that matter, we're the worst offense in the nation 4 years ago. But we're playing with a lot of confidence. We've got some talented athletes, a lot of team speed back there, and I think our coaching staff has done an outstanding job at devising game plans and preparing our kids to play.
What does it do for a football team like yours when early on, as we saw in the touchdown you scored, that you get things going immediately?
Well, that's been something that's been very characteristic for our football team. If you look at the 3 home games we've had, we've scored 31, 28, and I think 24 in those games. We had 21 in the second quarter here. We've been a fast-starting football team, and that certainly doesn't hurt a young team, a team that isn't used to tasting success. It doesn't hurt a team like that to get out of the gate quickly.
We get a chance to see your football club rush the ball, and what ended up being a big rushing day collectively and individually.
Well, anytime you have almost 300 yards on the ground, I think it's a factor where you're throwing the football, it's going to open some things up. Your offensive line and your running backs are doing a great job blocking, and that's what happened. Eventually, we just warmed down with the no-huddle offense by mixing things up, and our running backs did a super job running the football.
And you can't say enough about the day David Small had.
No, again, I thought the days of 36 carries for a single running back were over. But when you got a senior with a lot of experience who doesn't fumble, who gets the hot hand, then really it's a no-brainer to give him the ball.
You know, and you look at David Small, he seems to run very hard for a young man his size.
Yeah, David is only small in stature because he's about 5'8", but when he takes off his shirt, he's short. He's not small. The kid is built like a Greek god, tremendous weightlifter, by far the strongest of our running backs. And quite frankly, as good as our other running backs are, they've got to get bigger and stronger in the weight room like David is.
We see the offense do their thing, and then Jocelyn Borgella ties a career record for interceptions.
Bojo's one of the all-time greats in Cincinnati, no question about it. A tremendous, unselfish team leader, one of the great instinctive cornerbacks I've ever seen.
And he's had a few chances in the last few weeks to try and tie that record, and they've gotten away from it.
If Bojo had the hands on a receiver, he would have broken the record probably a season ago.
Well, and then your offense right away is able to take the ball and strike it right in for 6.
Well, you got to do that. Our defense many times this season has put us in position, then you got to come away with points. And I think almost every time that we've had a turnover, we've cashed in.
Now, Toledo has changed quarterbacks. Can you tell us about the young man they've used and what concerns he presents?
Ryan Huzak is a redshirt freshman. He's a fine player. Here, Bojo makes a great break on a post play. We should have deep help with the safety there. He's been on the run fake. But he's a fine player. We recruited him out of Michigan, and he can run, he can throw, he's a smart kid, and he did a good job.
Did it change what they had done previously?
No, they run their offense, and they mix things up extremely well with the draw. They spread you out with the one back, sometimes no backs in the backfield, and between the quarterback draw and the one back draw, they stretch your defense pretty well. Here we get good pressure here. Dingle forces the kids to step up. Bobby Duckins is there to answer the bell and get the sack. And
you talk about sacks. Your team over the last 3 weeks has really mounted the numbers up in regard to quarterbacks.
We have. I thought we got decent pressure. We didn't get enough pressure to actually get the job done all game long, but Darius Felder gets pressure there at the end to get the sack.
And so many more people are becoming such an important part, like Darius Felder, of your defense.
Well, we've tried real hard to play more guys, and if you deserve to play, we'll play you. But that keeps everybody fresh.
And then as well as special teams have been, you have one that just kind of gets away here.
Well, Darrell's done a super job in this area all year, and that's going to happen to anybody. The ball hung up there. It was a deep, booming punt in a swirling wind, and they come back with a good call on the quarterback draw to draw close to 21-7. This gave them a little bit of adrenaline that we just didn't need to give them, Paul.
Right. It puts your defense in a tough spot and gives the team the illusion that they can get back in the game.
Well, that's exactly right. If we go into the half 21-0, then we're going to be able to stick a fork in those guys, and they'd be done.
We see some of the numbers where you're ahead on some of the accounts and setting the tone. It's not that far ahead.
No, the big difference in the second half was that we really dominated the football. They had some possession time in that first half, even though we had more total yardage and points. But in the second half, we kind of turned that around. We didn't have as many points. We didn't cash in as well. But our offense was on the field for so much of the second half that our defense didn't have to play as much.
And over the last couple of weeks, your offense really has exploded, as we'll see.
Well, we've had almost 1,000 yards total offense and I guess about 70-something points the last 2 games. That's a good sign at this point in the season.
We'll come back and take a look at more of the highlights from the UC Toledo game, so stay with us. We're going to have highlights of the UC Toledo game. One of the statistics we saw there at the close of the first half, Tim, that merits pointing out again. Your team has scored 28 of 32 times once you've got the football inside the 20-yard line.
Well, I think that's a very important statistic, Paul. If you look at the successful teams around the country, they've got to do an outstanding job in the red zone, inside the 20, and on the goal line. We're 100% inside the 20, 100% inside the 5-yard and a goal line offense, and we're about 85-90% inside the 20. And anytime you can have that kind of efficiency, you're doing a good job. We got to throw the ball a little better inside the red zone so that we can convert some of those field goals into touchdowns. But all in all, we're doing a good job there.
Now, as you start this third quarter in Toledo against this football team, you've got a lead, but you've also seen Toledo juice it up a little bit at the end of the first half.
Yeah, we gave them a big morale boost to give them a little light at the end of the tunnel for halftime. Those things happen. Now we're going to make the game a little bit tougher for ourselves than we wanted to by throwing a pick on the first series. And, they bring the thing right inside the 10-yard line and put our defense in a bind.
Yeah, and anytime you do that, it's going to make it difficult. The interception situation, while it was obvious here, in the long run, I guess it has been reduced and improved somewhat.
Well, it's been improved tremendously. Lance Harp doesn't throw interceptions on any kind of a regular basis, and that's a big reason for our success. He was trying to make a play there on third down, and, once in a while that happens. The linebacker made a good play on it.
21-14 at this point, your football team takes the ball and just starts right back the other way with it.
Well, 21-14, all of a sudden we got a ball game, but the nice thing, from here on in, we executed some really ball-controlled drives and really kept their offense off the football field, wore their defense down, and took valuable time off the clock.
And this seems to be the point in the game, too, where David Small really starts to get it going.
Well, he sure did, Paul. I was shocked when I saw how many carries that he had, but he really heated up on Saturday, and I think we mixed up the pass well enough to keep things going. I think that might have been a 4th down play, and we did what we had to do.
This football team with the transition we've seen, the offensive line, both run blocking and pass blocking, has really been a big plus.
The offensive line has come an awful long way. We said at the beginning that we had the best overall talent we've had since we've been here. However, we lacked experience, Paul. We didn't have a lot of experienced guys that have played, but they've come along. They have an outstanding chemistry together. They work awful hard, and we're starting to see the fruit of their efforts every Saturday.
And you're able to get a field goal here to answer what had been Toledo's earlier score.
Well, it was a big field goal, Paul. Puts us up 2 scores ahead, and that was a big one.
And then all of a sudden, Toledo's able to get one to run right back the other way.
Well, again, we had some uncharacteristic mistakes on our special teams. We've got to get that squared away, because if we had not, quite frankly, it would have been a blowout.
Now, you mentioned the benefit of the defense getting a break because of the offense time of possession. And here seems to be an example of the defense keeping Toledo from finding the end zone by a touchdown.
Well, again, when you get that type of field position, if you can hold them to 3, you're doing a heck of a job. And honestly, we were happy to get out of there with just holding them to 3.
As time winds down, what are you starting to see from your football team in the way of confidence and their believability of winning this game?
Well, right now our team refuses to lose, Paul, and we're going to find a way to win this game, no matter what it takes. Whether it's Dorian Aridan blocking that pass, whatever the heck it is, we're going to find a way to win. And it probably should have been a blowout. It wasn't, but our kids were not going to lose that football game on Saturday afternoon. There was just no way they were going to leave that field with a loss.
We've seen your defense come up with some big plays and be on the threshold of even more big plays, and that's got to be real pleasing.
Well, it is. Our defense has made big plays all year, and this game was no different.
Now, you do start to get some of the other tailbacks involved, Darryl Harding, Cradell, Kimbrough, and they're able to make the contributions to even help David Small to do what he did.
Well, sure. They gave David a good blow, and Cradell made some big plays on that screen pass to pick up a first down. And then, again, I think we mixed it up enough with the passing game. Lance put the ball on people and just kept the chains moving, kept taking time off the clock. Another good run by Cradell, and you know, we're just wearing them down. They were really gassed. Our kids said, boy, they were coming up to the line late in the game. They just didn't want to line up.
Now, you talk about taking time off the clock, but still being aggressive, looking for points?
Oh, exactly right, Paul. In fact, we ran the no-huddle offense right to the end because we felt like we just had to continue to score. We didn't feel like 24 points were necessarily going to hold up, and ultimately it wouldn't have.
Now, you've been in this position where you've seen teams get close and eventually even catch up at certain points in time. Has that all served as a lesson to this point?
Well, hopefully it has, Paul. We talked about going in that, you know, we hadn't been tested in the fourth quarter in a while. And, again, we took a lead. They whittled the thing down, but we did what we had to do.
You talked about Toledo being tired going into the end of the third quarter, and it appeared very obvious that your football team physically was in very good shape.
We were in good shape, and we played a lot of guys on defense, which gave us, I think, fresh guys down the stretch to make the big plays. Offensively, we don't substitute a lot in the offensive line, but we feel like if we can keep the pressure on with the no-huddle offense, then we're putting a lot more pressure on them than we are on ourselves.
We'll come back to take a look at the fourth quarter highlights, so stay with us on Inside UC Football. The UC Bearcats leading Toledo going into the fourth quarter, and Tim, this is the 7th time in 8 games that your football team has taken a lead into the final period.
Well, that's been a big transformation in our program and our team, Paul. It's kind of unusual for us based upon where we've come from. But anytime you have the lead 7 out of 8 games, you're probably going to have a chance to have a winning season. And fortunately for us, I guess in 5 out of those 8 games, we've managed to win the thing.
Now, at this point, still looking to be aggressive, still looking to score points, but to run the clock down, you end up going through the course of this game where you get 91 offensive plays. That's going to go a long way to get the clock run down.
Well, anytime you run 91 plays, Paul, you get a chance to wear their defense out and keep your defense off the field. The thing that you have to understand, though, we run a no-huddle offense a lot, and we feel like that really puts a lot of pressure on a defense. But you're not taking as much time off the clock because we had some relatively less time-consuming scoring drives because of that. But you know, as long as we score, we don't care.
Right, so the 91 could have been a higher number.
Yes.
And that, again, is opposed to 68 that Toledo had.
Well, yeah, anytime you have that type of differential, then it puts a lot more pressure on the opponent's defense than it does your own.
Now, we see that Cradell Kimbrough had scored the touchdown earlier. Toledo's got the football, and this thing is still, at this point, no way from being decided.
Well, it hasn't been decided. As much as we, at times, have certainly dominated the football game, they managed to hang in there, and we hurt ourselves on field position on 2 turnovers and a kickoff return.
Now, are you anticipating Toledo to throw the ball like this here late in the game?
Well, no question about it. And that, you know, That's as well defended as you can get. Just a great throw and a great catch.
Now, at this point in the game, after Toledo's put these points on the board, you're able to get the football and manufacture a couple of very long drives.
Well, we had very long drives, taking time off the clock, keeping their offense off the field, and you know, anytime you can do that and come away with points, then you're probably going to win the football game.
Now, are you at the point now where you're looking to keep it more on the ground?
Well, yes and no, Paul. We felt like we still had to mix it up, but by the same token, you know, when push comes to shove, we'd rather run the football in that situation at least.
Mm-hmm. We see Lance Harp roll out and throw the football early in the first quarter. We saw Lance running the football a little bit, and his mobility really seems to have been something recently to take note of.
Well, we've managed to take advantage of Lance's mobility. People don't think he can run, and that's a mistake that people make. And you know, we run some option. He's done an effective job with it sparingly, and you know, we want to change the launch points by rolling them out whenever we can. That hurts. That's a chip shot. Would put the game out of reach. You know, we live despite it, but the chip shots we got to make. We just got to make chip shots.
And I guess it's worthy of pointing out too that despite that and another miss during the game, your kicking game really has come quite a ways.
Yeah, it's very important to recognize that, Paul. Tommy Dowling has done an outstanding job this year. Consistency from game to game is something we have to work on.
Now, David Small, as we see him continue to run the football, finished with his third highest total, 197 yards. That's quite a number.
Well, it's a lot of yards. There's a lot of carries. And, you know, Dave, in his senior year, is, like the rest of our football team, somewhat on a mission. That was a little bit of a bad snap. I thought it went through, but obviously the Zebras thought different.
And also, we talk about David Small. Not only the yardage he had, he's 2 touchdowns. He's now 25 career scores, 1 shy of a record, and 23 career rushing touchdowns, also 1 shy of a record.
Well, that's a tremendous performance on his part over the years. I think if you look at Nate Dingle, who's closing in on Jameson's sack record, has already broken Alex Gordon's tackle for loss record, and Jocelyn Borgella's tying the interception record. We've got some outstanding competitors in this senior class that are going to leave their mark on UC football for years to come.
Now we finally see Latish Kinsler help salt it away.
Well, when the ball's in that part of the field at this time of the game, who else are you going to think? Latish Kinsler, he's a guy that made the same type of game-saving interception against Miami. He's done a great job at free safety all year long, and he's really been an anchor back there in our secondary, strong safety, I should say.
And got some speed for a converted wide receiver.
Well, he's a converted basketball player is what he is, Paul. He played 1 year of high school football, but we found out he had a 40-inch vertical jump, and he was a black belt in karate. He's playing the wrong sport.
Now, when you take a look at the score and you take a look again at the statistical numbers, it pretty much shows that this game really shouldn't have been as close as the final score was.
It shouldn't have been as close as the final score. Field position hurt us. 2 turnovers, an error in the kicking game, but it doesn't matter, Paul. It's a W. We can correct those things. We got to move on to Memphis State.
We see the time of possession, also the differential in total yards. That really was the big deciding factor.
Well, our offense has really hit stride in terms of points, first downs, and total yardage. And anytime you have the possession to go along with it, Paul, then you make it a whole lot easier for your defense.
This was a confident football team coming into this football game. Certainly winning this contest has to just multiply that.
Well, it certainly does, Paul. Confidence plays a big, big factor in success. And this team's on a mission. We're going to get a winning season. We're going to find a way to get that done. I'll preface that by saying the 3 teams we have left, lifetime, our record against those folks is not very good. And it's going to be a big challenge. But our kids and our staff and our program are ready for that challenge, and we're just excited to have the opportunity to get this thing done.
We'll come back and take a look at more with Inside UC Football, so stay right here with us. At the UC Toledo game, and we get a chance to look at the coach's chalkboard. And Tim, this is the first touchdown of the football game, and getting the fullback to score, something that we've seen your team do over the long stretch of years, certainly has to be a big plus when you consider all the other possibilities you have.
Well, it's a big plus to have guys in our passing game at fullback that can really help us, and I think Mike Bridford and Eric Patterson, certainly Paul Black, would have all helped us do that. This particular play, Paul, is a weak side read where we're going to try and put Stretch, in this case, on the weak side corner. They're playing a 2-strong coverage, so he's playing half the field. The fullback has to beat the Sam linebacker, which is a good matchup because he's got the flat. And then we're just going to read him. If the corner takes the tight end, then we're going to throw it to the fullback. If the corner comes off the hash mark, we're going to throw it to the tight end. in this case, both guys were open, and we're fortunate to get it to the guy that got it in the end zone.
Now, as we get a chance to see the play develop, everything goes the way it's supposed to. The ball gets thrown, the player catches the ball. The best part of this play is after the catch.
Well, it is after the catch, and that's where I think what Paul's forte is. He's got great agility and speed and makes a good catch and gets it in the zone.
And you mentioned he was a converted tailback and obviously showed some of that ability.
Well, he was a junior college All-American tailback, and he's a big one at 215 pounds, so it's a natural for him to be an outstanding athletic type of fullback.
Now, he's from Toronto, right?
Paul's from Toronto, Canada, via the Caribbean Islands, and he's a kid that's got a lot more potential and is going to be a big part of our offense next year.
You've gotten some good mileage out of kids from Canada, haven't you?
Well, I'll tell you, Canada's been very good for us. I think if there's anything we've done well in recruiting, it's turning over a lot of rocks. Guys in Canada, guys in Maine, guys in Virginia, guys in Ohio, wherever it takes, we'll find a guy. And I also think our coaches have done a good job developing them in the weight room and on the practice field. And we got a couple other guys from Canada, like Rob Robinson, a 275-pound freshman defensive tackle that, again, is from Toronto via the Caribbean, and he's going to be a fine football player also.
Up next for the Bearcats homecoming, Memphis State, 4-3, wins over Mississippi State and Arkansas, and a team that, as you alluded to earlier, series-wise has kind of had their way with Cincinnati.
Well, they have, and if you look at our opponents down the stretch, they've hammered Cincinnati, and there's no other way to look at it. Memphis State is a fine football team, very well coached by Chuck Stobart. They've got outstanding team speed, and they've beaten 2 SEC opponents this year, so then they know what it takes to win. Big game for us, homecoming. We're hoping for a big, big crowd. Our kids are jacked up to play. We just need a great week of preparation. We have to take care of business in practice this week in meetings, and then if we do that and come to play emotionally, then hopefully things will take care of themselves on Saturday. Should be a great football game.
And you've talked about 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time, but that winning season, which has eluded UC since 1982, 1 more win and it's there.
Well, as I mentioned to the media guys, Paul, I really feel like this team is on a mission, especially the seniors. And there's no denying that. These kids and our staff, we're going to do whatever it takes to get that done. It would certainly take some pressure off to get it done versus Memphis State. But all we're concerned about is Memphis State. As far as we're concerned, there are no games after that. We just take it 1 day at a time, do what we've been doing to be successful, and play as hard as you can, and that's all you can do.
In regard to the Independent Football Alliance, I know this doesn't play much into what you do, but Cincinnati's at the top of the standings of that whole group.
Well, as far as we're concerned, this is a league game, and that's exciting because we're undefeated in league play. We're going for a league championship. We got 2 games to play, and you know our kids want some recognition on the all-league team, the All-Independent Football Alliance football team, and you know this isn't as good as being in the Big Ten. But let me tell you something. This has been a major step forward in our program to have the opportunity for our kids to have those type of honors, to get our own officials and develop some rivalries. And I think our athletic director, Rick Taylor, has done a great job getting this thing off the ground.
Well, congratulations for the win over Toledo, and good luck next week.
Thanks very much, Paul.
We hope you'll join us next week for highlights right here on Inside UC Football.
Inside UC Football, an in-depth look at the University of Cincinnati football program, featuring head coach Tim Murphy, presented by your friends at Kroger, and brought to you in part by the Cincinnati Gas and Electric Company, and by Miller Lite. This has been a University of Cincinnati production.